All right. Should all be live. We'll take a quick gander to see if it's working or so. Should be there at this point. All right, yeah. Good early morning to everybody. It is indeed far too early for this. I'm not exactly sure why everything is scheduled like this week. I have no idea. Have no clue. I also don't understand all the idiots on Twitter who be like, rumors are saying we're gonna race. Like, what are we talking about, guys? Like, what? They're not running the cup today. They're not running the cup Monday. It's just a small little shower like tomorrow. Um, so, and what's going on abnormally distributed, the individual who I get my data from whenever I'm not either at my computer or really just if something goes wrong and I'm not able to pull stuff, abnormally distributed is always the individual that I use. You can find him on Twitter at abnormally distributed. Um, I want to bring up the fact that since we have such a quick turnaround today, let me go ahead and get this over here. Since we have such a quick turnaround today, um, there's a real likelihood, at least at the moment, yet again, that we are partnered with Saberson. Let me get all this stuff over here just to show everything really fast, very quickly. Also, if you do use the promo code Finals 2025, you do get 33% off your first month of any of the Sabersim uh, packages. If you guys have any interest in using the pay dirt tools, Sabersim itself, or any of the projections and services that we offer here, use Finals 2025 for 33% off that first month. What I want to bring up is the fact that we have a situation where Fantasy Cruncher, SaberSim, yeah, no, for real, trying to get to Mexico and everything. Since we do have no SaberSim and stuff, okay, obviously, like I have my stuff up, right? But like SaberSim doesn't have their stuff up. Okay, there's a real chance that a lot of the providers will probably be pretty slowish getting most of the things up. Now that's not a direct hit. That's just how it goes. Okay. By the way, most of these people that make the projections, I mean, we're 2 hours and 50 minutes away from the start of the race. There's a real chance that those numbers and stuff come out much later. Okay, so uh, realistically, at least for this, we're not working with ownership. I'm not going to go behind the paywall today because typically that is me going through um, building my lineups and stuff like that, seeing how we just have just my data set and literally nothing else, probably for the foreseeable future right now. I don't think there's really much to use there. So what I want to focus more on is more of just the traditional shows that I would do is going over where everybody was at in practice, where they've been at this year at intermediates, and then looking through what Astukas has been putting up or really focusing on, or not focusing, but what Astukas is looking at in terms of his dashboard. So, like, yet again, if you have any of the subscriptions to us, not just the NASCAR stuff, you have access to not only my projections, Sheets' projections. You also have all of Astucas's tools here, the contest review, the lap analyzer, and stuff like that. Um, you've seen me use those, numerous times and stuff. But what we're mainly looking at here, or what I want to look at, is yet again, we've only had really two similar races to this. And when we look at races that are actually, closest to um, how this race is scored, because we only have 128 laps, um, the races that we're looking at are basically Atlanta and Michigan from a lap contest perspective. These are the two most similar two track types for DFS contests and stuff. And when we look at both of these, now granted, we have had more people run away with the lead at Atlanta just because it's typically, or what I would argue, is easier to stay up front at Atlanta versus Michigan. But what I want you to note is when we're looking at and yet again, this is laps, led, and fast laps. When we're looking at the Michigan races here, okay, and I'll even zoom in so you guys can see here since you guys are wondering. As I said, this is laps led. When we're looking at the Michigan races, and we can even go back on older races as well. But I don't believe we've ran at Michigan in a while. Let me go ahead and just double check that really fast here for trucks, rather, because typically they have the 1 weekend with Xfinity. So let me just see really fast. So we've only had Yeah, we had 2020, 2019, I guess 2018, 2017, but that I mean, that's going back a long, long way, right? Like, when we're looking back at all these races here, I mean, I'll throw up these last 2 here, and we can even look at these, through the lap by lap analyzer as well, but even still, when we look at the amount of laps led, and that's more so what I'm focusing on at the moment here is 18, 18, 16, 16, 12, 8. Okay, so, and then this race, we had Kyle Busch run away, and even still, run away with that was, 47, 24, 11, 4, so or 11, 10, and so we're really seeing, oops, we're really where are we at? We're really seeing, your laps led really not surpass, realistically 30 for any one individual driver. Okay, and so when we're looking at the starting grid today and we see the people up front, okay, with Luke, Crafton, and now obviously Thor Sport has shown up with the fastest single car speeds. Okay, my gut instinct, at least right off the bat, is when I see the starting grid, right, I'm very hesitant on playing a lot of the Thor Sport guys, starting up in the front, because from a point per dollar perspective, there's gonna be a lot of people, or maybe not a lot, but there are much better head-to-head plays in the back of the field that have the realistic upside of scoring, like, 58 points with a realistic floor of, like, 45, 48. Um, and so I'm really hesitant on playing a lot of these Thor Sport guys, even at their price tags and stuff. Um, Hocevar is really the only guy that I would really consider playing up here, and I think he would fall in line of that driver who could lead us, 26 laps, get 8 fast laps or whatever, and potentially, end up scoring right at the range of, let me open this on my side so I can guesstimate and look really fast, like right around like the low 50s and stuff. Okay. And then again, he's at 10.5. I would be very happy with a 4.8 or a 4.9 value from him. Um, so other than individual drivers, I mean, obviously we have Corey Heim, but I don't even think Corey Heim is going to be able to necessarily run away with the race nearly as much as he has been doing at intermediate tracks. Um, Now, granted, obviously very fast. Obviously, I don't really want to look at roads and Crafton's lap times yet again. Thank you. I've normally distributed um, when we're looking at these laps, but like, typically we see Corey Heim as the clear runaway driver and stuff. I think there's a multitude of people who can run very, very similar to Corey Heim, and so I think his price tag is actually a pretty big detriment today. I have Corey Heim for 51.1 points today, and that's a 4.25 value, and so, like, I kind of view that as nearly unplayable. Um, as we're looking through the rest of this field, I kinda wanna come back to, um, the dashboard and stuff, and specifically look at the place differential. So when we're looking, and we'll even focus more on Michigan here. So when we're looking at these races, obviously we've had, um, I mean, this is an example of Clearman coming back, which we can even go back and look at these kind of older races and see if there was anybody who. Now, typically we've had qualifying for these races, but do we see any good drivers who were starting in the back of the field who were able to get up through the field? And what I mean by that is when we're looking, I mean, we have Ben Rhodes at 17th and stuff, and this is the 2018 race. We look at the 2017 race really fast, and I could come the other way. I need to go. When we look at this race here and we see people, all the good drivers, Bubba Wallace, Bell. Oh, this is Bubba Wallace, Cucumber to win. um, we have Bell 13th, Kyle Busch 10th, Truex 11th, Ben Rhodes 14th. Although that's very similar to where he started. We really didn't have, at least in these two races, we really didn't have a situation of good people starting in the back of the field. This is typically how I use the lap by lap tool if we can get this bitch to load here, since I have all these stupid tabs open. What I want to look at is the last two truck races really fast at Michigan. Give me a second here. Sorry. And I will read chat in a minute. I want to look at. I mean, damn, dude, COVID's a bitch. That 2020 race is going to be a pain in the ass. We'll look at the 2019 race really fast. Yeah, I forgot. Our stuff only goes back to 29 or 2020, because why would you use data in different series? This COVID race is going to be a bit funky, dude. I'm not really excited about this one here. Bit funky wonky, dude. I'm going to punch a fucking hole in my computer. There we go. So this is like, in COVID, man. This is like, August 7th, 2020, right? So we're deep in COVID right now. Where did we have people starting, right? Chandler Smith ironically started first and finished last. Quite a lot of chaos. Started the backfield. Hutchins. Jesus Christ. Obviously the Klingerman thing. Nemechek, I believe he got in a wreck. We can look at Nemechek stuff really fast. But we really didn't have a lot of people in the back of the field here. So what happened to John Hunter Nemechek here? Yet again, this is one of the tools that you do have, or that we do have on the site for you to be able to look at previous races, look at where people are running, and see. This is what I envision for our race today for people in the back of the field like Ross Chastain, Chandler Smith, even potentially Corey LaJoie and Tanner Gray. Is like, obviously they are not 23rd, 24th, 26th, and 31st drivers respectively. Chandler Smith, has basically been the second best car, depending on what track you're looking at this year in terms of getting through traffic. And this is, where I would envision them going. We can even add Parker Kligerman, and showing how the good drivers got through, and Nemechek just, got crashed at the end of the race or had an issue or whatever the case may be. I mean, we're talking about COVID here, right? But the faster cars, regardless where he qualified. And what I mean by faster cars is, like the big teams that you would expect to run for potential top 13 finishing positions are usually able to get up through this field with very, very little issue. I do want to look at the fast laps really fast here. Obviously, track position is, we're spreading them out between, basically your top 5-6 cars, because most of the time, I mean, we're going to spread anyway. We're not going to be pack racing or anything like that. But we are. I mean, that's crazy, dude. 8 fast laps for your most guy in this race here. That's pretty gnarly. So going back to this starting grid, right? And I'm letting Lee Saperson load my stuff over here. So give me a moment here. Let me see what chat is doing while this finishes here. Belmont. Obviously, I have one of the most famous horse race bettors literally on the channel, like Sheets, right? Like, but really, I can't imagine the normies really caring about the Belmont Stakes, right? Especially when a Triple Crown is not in play. I don't care about Belmont unless I can watch somebody lose a Triple Crown. Enjoy the race, Travis. It's on Big Fox this year. Yeah, last race is 2020. So the fact that we did get practice is fine, I guess. Like, there's really nothing. Like, we're not playing literally any of these guys down here, right? This is what's concerned about Luke. Luke was so slow. Now, obviously, really, really fast short run speed, right? Obviously, that's why he's on the pole. But realistically, we're not playing Norm. We're not playing Spencer. Either of the Bird and Bairds. Tony, Frankie, like, we're just not playing any of these guys in the back of the field, okay? So when we're looking at this race from a projection standpoint and stuff, we really have to try and nail, at least for me personally, at least projection wise, I really have to try and nail where people are going to end up finishing and stuff. And so, this is, yet again, so I'm not doing a paywall show, but we're not really doing much. after this. This is more so where I have everybody finishing. Um, well, obviously, it's very unlikely that Norm even passes anybody. Like he should be the last place finisher, even if we do have a crash and carnage and stuff. But a lot of people like Ankerman and Hemrick should be finishing very similar. Now, obviously, he just needs 40 here. It's like 37.5 or something to his value, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, I'm just shotgunning values and stuff. But I would envision Hocevar, Corey Heim potentially being your favorites up front, competing for the win. But what's mainly important is this season. This isn't even like the most aggressive projection for Chandler Smith. Same thing with Chastain, uh, Tanner Gray, and LaJoy. I mean, even when you bump these guys down slightly, their projections are still in the more likely outcome of actually working here. You look at our last scores, which specifically this is looking at Michigan and Atlanta, where place differential is pretty huge. Like when we're looking at the scoring components of these individual drivers, obviously laps led and fast lap points are very, very little or very, very much not important. And really outside of the place differential of situations to where you're gaining a couple positions here and there if you start in the teens, finishing in the top 10. And outside of the situation that we have with, Tanner Gray, LaJoy, Chandler Smith in the back of the field, place differential is playing kind of very little in what these guys are actually doing. It's all based on finishing position and stuff. And this is including both Michigan and Atlanta. Okay. And so when we're looking at the scoring ranges for, your 10th, 8th, ninth best guys, meaning it's 41, 42, 43. And that's not including, when we're looking at like your top, we'll look at the top 3 to 5 scores here because obviously you have potential lap lead or whatever. Your third best is scoring 57, your fourth is 56, and your fifth is 53. Who are those individual drivers in this race that have the potential of doing that? That's drivers who are, like Chandler Smith, Ross Chastain, Tanner Gray, Lane Riggs, Caden Honeycutt. This is actually a really, really small pool, which, yet again, I know I'm about the only person live right now with, or really any data live, but this is a situation for a perfect storm of people who enter 20 lines or 50 to 100, and especially the MME guys. Now, I don't necessarily, yet again, because I don't have ownership, I'm just kind of shotgunning right now, but it should be a fairly chalky race and builds with, like, basically just 2v2s kinda separating, what should actually end up being optimal. So what I mean by that is, this is a slate to where, the MME guys, uh, I would argue, have a much higher hit rate of landing on the optimal lineup, um, because they can cover a lot of bases. I also believe that a lot of the cash lineups and stuff are probably going to perform very well today because it's probably going to encourage people to play lineups like Chandler Smith, Chastain, uh, Tanner Gray, Caden Honeycutt together, and then really choosing what your last 2 guys are um, for this type of lineup. When I look at my exposure rates, and yet again, this is just my stuff based on my projections on where ownership should end up going. My highest expected projected guys um, that I would envision the field to play would be Chandler Smith is the highest, Ross Chastain is the second, uh, Caden, Hocevar, and Gray competing for third. And really past that, it's a pretty big drop off because at that point we're either potentially get guys in the teens or potential lap leaders or whatever the case may be from there. And I'm not seeing really any um, reason to even punt here. And I understand Atlanta has been or the other track that I've been mentioning from a DK contest perspective. But I would not envision us to have enough wrecks for these guys to be scoring or finishing in the top 15 or anything. So that's where I'm at so far. Let's see. I don't have any other questions being asked and stuff. I mean, I think any decent projection source is like even any mean projection source, it's probably going to be pushing the same people. people I would not play today: Morgan, Spencer, Tony, Reum, Frankie, Nathan, Matt Mills. I'm gonna lean to not playing Luke um, Fenhouse. I just feel like he gets shuffled back. Same thing with potentially Jack Wood and Connor Mozak. These would be the three guys that I would really be not interested in playing at all of anybody up here. Even with giving like Jack Wood, I believe I have him for like ninth right now. I just don't have any real reason to even consider playing Jack Wood at even at that price tag, because right now I have him projected for 31.5 points. Is literally zero interest. I think my favorite plays outside of obviously the huge place differential guys that I think we can all understand why they're liked and um, why they're expected to be owned. Infinger. This individual is somebody who I've been playing a lot this year. Typically, nearly always coming in on their own. He only needs 45 points to pay that off today. Now, I think it's gonna be really difficult to get to Infinger at 9,000. But I like being overweight on Infinger. Same mentality as like William Myron and Ryan Blaney, right? Like I just want to be over the field on them on like any given week, just because he has the potential of winning any race at all. Friesen as well at 7,200. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. And that's really it. I don't think there's really much more to break down on this individual race. If you're using my stuff, you know who I'm playing. If you're using SaberSim, I envision my lineup, SaberSim lineups, Roto HQ, Cruncher, whoever the fuck you're using. We're probably gonna have very similar projections today, because there's very little laps led to project for. There's very little fast laps to project for. Um, and even when we're looking at like this race and stuff, we have where are we at here? We're just not dealing with a lot. Oh, I do want to add that the mid race fantasy scoring is working out very nicely. So you can type in any individual lap, whether you want to see it where they're at in the stage or where they are at in the race. So, like for example, we did go over the fact that if you remember, John Hunter Nemechek got crashed at the end of the race last year or in 2020 and stuff. On lap 87, let's say before he crashed, um, this shows the DraftKings points that they were scoring at the time of that lap. Okay, because we can go back and we can see where they were running, how many laps they had led, and how many fast laps they had. This was the amount Nemechek was scoring before he crashed. Um, and you can see, yet again, we have less place differential on the docket this week, or this year compared to other ones. But this is probably more useful for other races and stuff. But you can go and see exactly where somebody was scoring at a certain time. So maybe you aren't able to watch the race live, or you aren't able to watch how laps are playing out live, which I highly encourage you do. We do allow you to go ahead and look at where people were scoring at an individual lap. And then obviously, the final results for the race. Is that correct? Let me see. We didn't even check it wrecked out. Did he blow a tire? Why is Nemechek's thing not? Oh, he finished on the lead lap. Oh, that's the wrong one. Race that in there. 107. Duh. My bad. I was like, that's not 104. Final caution lap 104. My bad. The end of the race is where this is what they scored in 2024 or 2020. 2020. This is what they scored in 2020. And yet again, less place differential in this race than the last one, because we were coming off of COVID times, but your highest score was 62, 59, 52, 51, 75, 51, 50, 50, 40, 48, 41, 35, 41, 25, 40. Those are your top 10 DraftKings scores and stuff. I would not be shocked to see, a very similar thing like this today, maybe slightly higher for the rankings between, you know, third and fifth. But I would still expect a pretty aggressive drop off, very similar to this as well. Um, I don't really have anything else to say. I think that's mainly it. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow. So bye bye. Remember, finals 2025 for 33% off any of the SaberSim packages for your first month. I will see you guys later. Bye bye.